Councilmember Doug Young has our prayer and pledge this evening. Mr. Young.
If you would please join me in a moment of silence. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the Murfreesboro City Council, March 6, 2014, and I believe our assistant to the city manager, Shannon Logan, has some information and some introductions for us tonight. Ms. Logan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Just real quickly, I wanted to take an opportunity tonight to introduce you to members of our 2014 Citizens Academy class that are all here with us tonight. There are pictures up on the screen, and if we have a second, I'm going to introduce them by name. Hopefully I can remember it. I don't have it up here, all of their last names, but this will be a good test. We'll see how it is. Okay, so we have Susan Allen right here.
Stand. Recognize and remain standing.
And David Parker, and Stephen Richards, and James Chavez, Barbara McIntyre, Amy Swiker, Sandy Kavasic, Patrick, I'm skip somebody. Chris Jones, Patrick McMurray, Luke Dixon, and Leroy Cunningham's here somewhere. Oh, there's Leroy. There we go. That's our class here tonight with us. Just want to introduce them all.
Thank you all. We're very pleased that you're here, and we thank Ms. Logan for taking on the responsibility of putting this class together for us. It's something we've wanted for a number of years, and to be the second class, that means the first class was successful, and we decided to go ahead and do it again. So we hope you will enjoy and learn from your experience, and we certainly appreciate your participation and staying with us and getting to go through our City Hall and through our city departments and learn about how we serve the citizens and the business owners of Murfreesboro. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Ms. Logan, for bringing them tonight and for the introductions. An excellent job. Very good. You have your consent agenda before you. Item DB, which is a copy machine replacement, has been withdrawn and will come to us next week at our meeting. So that's the only change I am aware of with the consent agenda. Are there any questions from the council regarding any of the items on the consent agenda before I ask for a motion to approve? If there are no questions, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as it is presented with the one item withdrawn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Washington, please call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. At this time, you have before you the minutes of the regular meeting held on February the 13th, 2014. If you've had an opportunity to review those minutes, are there any additions or deletions that need to be made to those minutes as they're presented?
Not, Mayor. I move for adoption of the minutes as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Mr. Young, please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels-Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. We have a number of items on second reading tonight, so I'll try to go through those as quickly as possible. First would be consider for passage on second reading an ordinance annexing an area located along South Church Street and to adopt for same a plan of services.
Move for approval on second reading.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Gilly, please call the roll. Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels-Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider for passage on second reading an ordinance to zone an area located along South Church Street as highway commercial CH district simultaneous with annexation.
Move for passage on second reading. Second.
Vice Mayor, Mr. Gilly, thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider for passage again on second reading an ordinance to rezone an area located along Brinkley Road to Commercial Fringe CF District.
Move for passage, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Mr. Young, please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider again for passage on second reading an ordinance to amend an area in a planned residential development district in Blackman Farms East located along Almar Knott Drive.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. McFarland, Mr. Gilly, thank you. Please call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider now for passage on second reading an ordinance to amend an area in the planned residential development PRD district in Puckett Station located along Puckett Creek Crossing.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Young, Mr. Washington, thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider now for passage on second reading an ordinance to amend an area in the planned unit development PUD district in Manson Pike Crossing located along Fortress Boulevard.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Vice Mayor Washington, please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider now for passage on second reading an ordinance to amend an area in the planned residential development PRD district in Liberty Townhomes located along Cherry Lane.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Mr. Young, please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. At this time, consider for passage on second reading an ordinance amending Appendix A zoning, Section 2, revising the definition of family.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gilly and Mr. Young. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Consider now for passage on second reading an ordinance amending Chapter 11 of the Murfreesboro City Code by creating Section 33-213, establishing a sanitary sewer special assessment district to be known as the Three Rivers Sanitary Sewer Assessment District.
Move for passage on second reading.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Young, please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Yes. Excuse me, Mr. McFarland?
In our packet, there was in the whereas section, there was a typo that was highlighted.
Yep.
Did we need to do something to fix that before we pass it?
The very last whereas it's highlighted for the month.
Oh, yes, there was a typographical error.
Well, it was a no date on there.
Yes,
Okay.
it wasn't an error, it was an omission because we couldn't fill it in because you hadn't moved to set the public hearing.
Okay.
So it actually doesn't require any
Okay.
special action.
Just wanted to make sure. Our legal department likes us to be thorough, right?
Very much so, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. At this time, we'll hear from our Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce Convention and Visitors Bureau with regards to the impact of tourism on Rutherford County. Ms. Wolke, congratulations on your new position. Sounds like a great job, and we're very proud you're here with us tonight. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for having me here this evening. I also want to thank the City of Murfreesboro for your investment in infrastructure with the Richard Siegel Soccer Park, the tennis facilities at Old Fort Park, MTSU sports facilities, as well as the Embassy Suites Hotel and Conference Center. Your investment has allowed the Convention and Visitors Bureau to expand tourism-related activities and increase the overall economic impact in Rutherford County over 80% over the past 10 years. So we're certainly excited about those numbers. In 2012, the tourism economic impact was $272 million. That was a $20 million increase over the previous year. Last year, Rutherford County saw a $6 million increase in hotel room revenue alone, and we're certainly excited about that as well. The Convention and Visitors Bureau's hotel tax receipts received from the city of Murfreesboro also saw an increase every month last year, and the last time that happened was 1996. So we're very excited about that, and we hope to continue this upward trend as the new hotels are soon to open in Murfreesboro. Events. We host many events in Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed the traffic out this week. We're hosting the TSSAA State High School Basketball Championships this week and next week. This event brings 60,000 people to the area and is a $3.5 million impact towards the economy. As we close that event, we will gear up and work closely with Parks and Rec to host the TSSAA Spring Fling, which is another $3 million impact towards the economy. That event is the high school spring sports and 5 sports, your baseball, softball, soccer, track and field, and tennis. Labor Day, we will host the Tennessee Cup. This event brings 3,000 room nights to Murfreesboro and the surrounding areas in one weekend. And the event organizer has announced that he is considering Murfreesboro for the Open Cup, which could possibly take place April of next year, which would mean another 3,000 room nights. We host many state, regional, and national conferences at the Embassy Suites Hotel and Conference Center and other facilities here in Murfreesboro. These events bring thousands of people to the area. Murfreesboro is seeing some great exposure because of your investment. I'd like to tell you about some great awards that we've received. The Convention and Visitors Bureau recently received a prestigious award from Convention South for having one of the best meeting sites in the South, not just the state, but the South. So we're excited about that as well. Murfreesboro was recently named as being one of the top 10 soccer cities in the United States by Livability.com. Murfreesboro was also named as being one of the best sports cities in the United States by Sporting News. So that's certainly some exciting news to share. Again, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and Convention and Visitors Bureau, we want to not only thank you for your investment, but we want to thank you for your leadership and vision that has positioned Rutherford County and Murfreesboro, Tennessee as one of the top destinations for conferences and sporting events. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great report, and we're very proud of our city and our facilities and our partnership with all of our businesses and MTSU in providing support for all those events. So, council members, you may have some comments yourself regarding this outstanding report. If not, we'll go on, but it is exceptional, and we certainly appreciate the report, and thank you. Consider now a renewal certificate of compliance for George Hanna at the Stop and Shop Discount Liquor and Wine, 490 St. Andrews Drive, Suite number 102, and for Ankit D. Patel and Tushar J. Odia at the Victory Village Liquor and Wines, 4167 Franklin Road, Suite 5A. Ms. Wright.
Mayor, these are both existing businesses, and they are meeting their state of Tennessee requirement for a 2-year renewal of their certificate of compliance, and they have met our requirements.
All right. Both of these have met our requirements. Is there a motion to renew?
So moved.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Gilly, please call the roll. Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mayor Bragg?
Aye. Pursuant to Public Chapter 1101 of 1998 enacted by the Tennessee General Assembly, we'll now conduct a public hearing to consider annexation progress reports for areas effective at least 6 months at the intersection of Lebanon Highway and Cherry Lane, 12.3 acres, southwest of Blanton Drive, 3.27 acres, Memorial Boulevard, 3.6 acres, South Church Street, 1.02 acres, and Osborne Lane, 1.81 acres. Notice of the said public hearing was published in the March 3rd, 2014 issue of a local newspaper. Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Public Chapter 1101 of 1998 requires that upon the expiration of 6 months after the effective date of an annexation and annually thereafter until services have been extended according to such plan, a municipality must publish in a newspaper of general circulation a progress report for the extension of such services and any changes proposed therein. The law further requires that the legislative body of the municipality shall hold a public hearing on such progress report after proper notice of a public hearing in the newspaper. The annexation ordinances for the areas described, as the mayor has indicated, has been effective for at least 6 months. These areas include, I'll read them again, annexation 12-02 or 2012-503 of approximately 12.3 acres at the intersection of Lebanon Highway and Cherry Lane. The effective date is March the 9th, 2013. Annexation 2012-505 of approximately 3.27 acres southwest of Blanton Drive. The effective date is May 4th, 2013. Annexation 2012-501 of approximately 3.6 acres along Memorial Boulevard. The effective date is June 8th, 2013. Annexation 2013-503 of approximately 1.02 acres along South Church Street. The effective date was June 15, 2013. And the annexation 2013-505 of approximately 1.81 acres along Osborne Lane. The effective date was July 6, 2013. Copies of the progress reports and an illustration of each area have been included in your agenda materials, and to date, all the services have been extended to these areas in accordance with the plan of services adopted for each annexation. A legal notice was placed in the Murfreesboro Post on March the 3rd, 2014, advertising the public hearings. The City Council needs to conduct a public hearing on these annexation progress reports. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Lewis regarding any of these annexation progress reports as they are presented? If not, I'll open a public hearing at this time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against or about, please step to the microphone and give us your name and address. Anyone here wishing to speak? Anyone at all? Last chance. I'll close the public hearing at this time, and I'll accept a motion to accept the annexation progress reports as they are presented.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Mr. Washington, please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. At this time, we'll consider recommendations of the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing to consider a PRD amendment and rezoning application for approximately 1.14 acres located along Old Las Casas Highway to be removed from the Stratford Hall PRD and zoned as a separate PRD. Mr. Adelot.
Thank you, Mayor Bragg, members of the council. During its regular meeting on January 8th of 2014, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on the matter you just described. They deferred action. They returned to the matter on February 19th. At that time, they recommended approval. The City Council needs to schedule this for a public hearing. I will note that there was a little bit of a disagreement on the part of the Planning Commission. It was a split vote. The applicant has heard from area residents who are still curious about it, want to know more about it, maybe are still concerned about it. He will be hosting a neighborhood meeting on March 11th at 6 o'clock p.m. for anybody that would like to attend and learn more about the application. So he'd like to do that before any public hearing held by the council.
And the location?
Will be at the St. Mark's Banquet Room at the St. Mark's Church.
That's in the rear, I suppose, of St. Mark's Church.
Yes.
And that date is March the 11th?
Yes, sir. And it will be at 6 o'clock p.m.
6 p.m., okay. And Ms. McGannon, would you like to go ahead and set a public hearing?
I would. would, and I would suggest April 24th for that purpose.
April 24th. Council members, if that April 24th date for a hearing, public hearing, meets with your approval, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Washington, Mr. Gilly, thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Adelot. This time, we'll consider for adoption a resolution expressing official intent that certain expenditures be incurred in connection with certain public works projects and related expenditures for the engineering of the Lytle Street realignment study being reimbursed from proceeds of notes, bonds, or other indebtedness to be issued or incurred by the City of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Ms. McGannon. Mr. Lyons.
I will take this one, Mayor
Excuse
Bragg.
me.
This is our standard refunding resolution that we bring to you when we want to reimburse the cost of a project with a future bond issue. You'll recall Mr. Richardson came to you a couple weeks ago to talk about the realignment of Lytle Street. This will be a new entrance into the downtown and really related to the Broad Memorial Project that can ensure good access to our downtown. So we are asking for your approval so that we could repay from bond proceeds the engineering costs for this project.
All right, council members, any questions regarding this resolution?
I've got a question.
Mr. Smotherman.
Rob, how much thought was put into, rather than redesigning the intersection, potentially going with the intersection as it exists and using the current roadway, even though the roads wouldn't line up? I mean,
I think part of the challenge, given the structures needed for the bridge, we want to have this as a signalized intersection and need to get enough separation between the new bridge as well as Main Street and Broad Street. And this is really in the sweet spot. It's about halfway.
so it's a separation issue. It's kind of like, I guess, Cason Lane in the interstate. We don't want to wind up with that scenario happening again, so it makes sense to move the intersection away from the major project that we've got going now. That makes sense. Thank you.
He's right.
Thank you, Mr. Smotherman. Any other questions regarding this resolution?
Mayor, I met with the Main Street officials Thursday of last week, and we talked about Lytle Street, and I think it's something that the downtown business owners as well as Main Street sees this as an opportunity to provide another gateway into the downtown and to help our downtown area. So I think they were very supportive of the notion of proceeding with this. And with that, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Mr. McFarland, Mr. Washington, any questions on the motion for the resolution? If not, please call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye.
Thank you.
At this time, any beer permit applications?
Yes, Mayor, we have several tonight. We have a special event application for Center of the Arts for an event to be held on March 29th. We have a special event application from United Way for an event to be held on April the 5th. We have a application from Children's Discovery Center for two events, one on May 2nd and one on December 1st. Then for regular permits, we have location 211 West Main Street, a bar to be relocated there. This is a location that has not had beer there before, and we are waiting for the codes inspections before that one could be issued, but they have passed their background checks. We also have a name change and ownership change for a bar at 2053 Las Casas Pike. They also are waiting on their codes inspections, but they have passed their background application. And then we have a ownership and name change at 527 West Main Street. The background check came back on that one okay, and we are still waiting on codes inspections for that location. So we have several in the works that we would like to issue once they wrap up with their codes department.
All right. Is there a motion that we accept these when they meet all requirements?
So moved.
Second the motion.
Mr. McFarland, Mr. Gilly, thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. You have before you a list of the statements to be considered for payment. Are there any questions regarding any of the bills, or shall we pay the bills?
Mayor, I move we pay the bills.
Thank you, Mr. Young. That's an exceptionally difficult motion to make tonight, I understand.
Hope it'll pass.
Yes, it's close. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Motion by Mr. Young, Mr. McFarland, second. We shall pay the bills if we get Ms. Wright to call the vote.
Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail. Checks on the bus.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. As to board and commission appointments, I would like to ask you to reappoint George Huddleston Jr. to our Airport Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Mr. Washington and Mr. Gilly, please call the roll.
Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mayor Bragg.
Aye. Other business from staff or city council? If not, last chance. You're adjourned.